Hey everyone, it's so great to finally start our first week of our last course in the Educational and Technology program with LSU Online. And I really enjoyed our first planning session together as we are moving towards developing our e-portfolios for the summation of this course. And I really look forward to receiving your feedback over the next few weeks as we work toward this goal together. So, thank you in advance for all of your contributions through all of our courses so far. I've really learned a lot from each of you. So, um, coming to the final stages of our time in the program and thinking about our e-portfolio, we've been working with, as Dr. Chin mentioned, we've been working with the technology standards starting in educational technology leadership. And for purposes of for my portfolio and for the work in my school district in DeSoto, I'll be using the Iste standards and looking at how those standards align to the artifacts that I've produced for my portfolio through the courses. So I'll go ahead and get started and take you through an overview of what this will look like. So thinking about DeSoto Parish and our strategic plan that started back in May of 2018, looking at technology implementation integration. I've kind of seen the progress that's been made in technology in our parish. We've became a Google district in 2018 when we moved to the Google for Education suite. And then following in 2019, we started putting Chromebooks into classrooms. And now, given the current state of the world and our situation with fighting a pandemic and being forced to a virtual learning environment, our parish is now a one-to-one Chromebook district. So we've had to learn very fast over these last couple of years as it has come to um, technology integration and making sure that our students have the resources they need to be successful. So I think these ISTE standards really provide a roadmap as it's described on the standards to help educators enhance their instruction. The technology and tools don't replace instruction, but the methods and the pedagogy only enhances what the teacher can do in the classroom. And I think it aligns with DeSoto Parish and our central vision, mission, and values for student learning outcomes. So I really view these standards as pedagogical practices that promotes collaboration with colleagues and it provides opportunities for professional development and coaching, which is something that I'm passionate about and want to continue to work towards that path with DeSoto. Okay, so moving into ISTE Standard One, it focuses on the learner and how the educator becomes a learner using the standards. So the main purpose here is for a teacher to improve upon their practices that they're using in their classroom by exploring and learning from each other where we leverage technology. So that means making the learning experiences more engaging and more meaningful for students. And that's looking at the pedagogy of how technology and instruction come together so we can have an effective model in the end. And then that also looks at a local and global learning network, which we've had the opportunity to explore those learning networks and global networks through our courses here in the program. I'm just thinking about, for instance, like LaQ. I've become involved with LaQ and being able to have a chance to learn more about that organization through social, like building our personal learning networks through some of the courses we've done, creating um, expanding our social media presence, like on Twitter, using curation tools like Digo, things of that nature. And then staying current with research. Uh, Future Ready Schools comes to mind when I think about this, and Dr. Chen has introduced that to us at the beginning of the program when we took, or wherever you took technology leadership, uh, in that part of your studies. But I'm thinking about future ready schools and case studies that we've been able to read and research, and then applying those into actual research papers that we've produced for our courses. So I think that standard aligns, and I think that learning is continuous. It's continuing education, uh, regardless of, like, where you started and where you're going. And I take that away from Iste Standard for learning. Okay, so moving into leader. Uh, I'm going back to my first experience with my very first course in the program, which was technology leadership, and being able to actually put together a strategic plan, a learning project that presents a strategic plan that involves school community members. Administration, teachers, and other stakeholders. So I think about that as present um, how do we present a plan that leverages technology to our stakeholders, and and show that empowerment that it can do for our students, and how can it shape the educational environment. So that goes in with partnership. I'm thinking more about how are partnerships formed, and then also looking at models for learning. We've learned about TPAC and SAMR in this program, and I'm thinking about looking at the exploration and evaluation of those various learning models and how they adapt to tools that school districts integrate into their classroom. So, for example, I did a project in the professional development course that looked at how Google and SAMR work together, and looking at those modalities of virtual learning. So, modeling, what does a virtual learning environment look like for students? What is it supposed to shape? What are the outcomes? So leaders are people who would figure those out, and then also advocating for access to digital content and hardware to meet those needs of students where it's needed. Okay. And then as an educator, we're also responsible for promoting digital citizenship for our students. Um, that comes with thinking back to Dr. Seneca's course on advanced e-learning and telecommunications. We had a module on student privacy laws. Where educators had to learn to be responsible to protect student information and student data, and also transforming and translating citizenship to students, teaching them to be socially responsible, showing them how to use online resources responsibly. And that goes along with, I think, when you bring tools into the classroom, you actually, as a teacher, you take the time to actually model and show how digital social responsibility and digital leader citizenship work together in the classroom. So I think it's really, really important that we have to know how to protect students and how to use that technology responsibly. And I think ISTE, and going through professional development, were able to learn more as to how we do that, and being familiar with our school district's policies on those things. Okay. And then Collaborator, which I think is really, really important. I think the best learning and the meaningful learning and purposeful learning come with collaboration. And I think with this standard, I think ISTE is trying to say, what can we do to show how that works in the classroom using these tools? But it first starts with colleagues being able to collaborate together to create learning experiences. That goes with, like, curation of resources. I'm thinking about Dr. Harriman's class, 4507, where we use Digo to curate resources and share those resources among our peers. How do we use these tools to collect resources and share and disseminate that information? Um, Co-learning with students. I really appreciate this standard because I think even though that you're teaching a concept or a skill to a student using a certain tool, I think it's also a good learning opportunity for the teacher to do that. And it's also an opportunity to see how effective that digital tool is in the classroom or in how it's used. Um, Using collaborative tools to expand authentic and real world learning experiences. I'm thinking about the Google Suite for Education and how Google's tools allow that collaboration among students, thinking about Google Docs, shared Google Docs, or Google slide presentations, making e-portfolios like we're doing for this course using something like a Google site. Um, that that shows authentic learning in action. It shows that action of learning, and then demonstrating cultural competency with when communicating with students and parents. Um, DeSoto Parish has actually created a student and parent resource library on our main website, and it's I'm gonna share it with my on my Padlet that I created for professional development. It's called DeSoto University, and it's a place where like Google trainers, like myself, have curated and produced tutorials in the form of YouTube videos, and we've created this library of how to share information and troubleshoot certain platforms and tools with parents, so they can go there as a first stop to be able to either troubleshoot an issue with the platform or walk through the process of having to use it. So having readily available resources for parents and students, and a lot as um, and as a role as a Google trainer, having those resources available for colleagues and helping them coach through certain interactions and situations. Okay, instructional design. You know, going back, we had those courses like midway through our program with Dr. Chin introducing us to instructional design concepts, and then Dr. Monroe following up with the design of multimedia units and how that facilitates learning, the design of learning, and how we use it to facilitate it. So using technology to create, adapt, and personalize learning experiences that foster independent learning. I think through the instructional design process where we created our project, our learning module, and we looked at the learning objectives and outcomes, and then we looked at these standards like Iste standards and how those align to the learning design of of our modules. And then designing authentic learning activities that goes right along with we've built these Google sites throughout most of our classes where we've designed learning activities that foster authentic and personalized learning. And then applying instructional design principles to create innovative digital learning environments that engage and support learning. Uh, this one I think is really good, and then that's just not in the form of like print artifacts. That's like with multimedia, creating videos, creating Powtoons, creating podcasts, things of those natures that facilitate like interactive and engaging learning experiences, and applying those principles in that way. And then I look at facilitator, and again, like thinking about the design of our portfolios, I'm seeing like how cohesive some of the skills and the concepts, the instructional design concepts and learning concepts that we've come across in all of our courses. We see a little bit of cohesion, and we see alignment as we've progressed through this program. And I think with facilitator, that's going back with like professional development. I could see how the professional development course could fall under learner and facilitator. There's a little bit of overlap there, but looking at facilitator as fostering a culture where students take ownership of their learning goals and outcomes. Um, I think with professional development and coaching, teachers um, can design learning environments where they set those expectations for their students. They model effective technology use in the classroom and how that applies to the concepts of learning. So the learner is not merely, the teacher's not doing all the heavy lifting. They're merely facilitating the learning for their student. And then fostering a culture where students are managing the use of technology and learning strategies on different platforms. uh, Again, I think that goes with, like, I've done some Nearpod projects for some of my courses. One in 75, '05 with Dr. Monroe, and then I did a professional development session in 75 25. So, like, using platforms like Nearpod to facilitate learning and engaging students and taking ownership of those outcomes. And then what else? Model and nurture creativity and creative expression to communicate ideas, knowledge, or connections. Um, and again, I think that's kind of like, where can we show what kind of tools, like, can we use to let students use their voices, like blogs, or even doing vlogging where they curate video diaries, or using social media as a means of connection to the learning. So all of these things we've done over the past, some of our courses, and, like, doing, like, 4507, and then we did some things like that with Dr. Sanica's class. So thinking about all of these channels that um, we learn about and that we utilize to make those experiences readily available. Okay, and then the Iste Standard 7 for analysts. This really drives back to proactive research, looking at best practices, looking at you know, looking at action, the action plans that we've created, and some. So one, thinking about Dr. Monroe's class, where where we created a technology evaluation plan, in 7550, in research and ed tech, educational technology and media. And then also looking at 4249 in that course, where we looked at an action research plan that focused on a specific area of learning design or technology integration. So I'm thinking about all of those courses as it comes to this. So we do this research so we can come back and try to find, to either keep and try something different that didn't work the first time, or continuing to build upon and enhance the 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 technology competencies that are already in place. So, using technology to design and implement a variety of formative and summative assessments. I think about the evaluation course, technology evaluation. There, use assessment data to guide and progress and communicate with students, parents, education stakeholders, and build student self direction. I think about the project about the professional learning project that I did on the impact of teacher self efficacy and virtual learning design. So thinking about, how are we evaluating and collecting data from action oriented processes, and collecting that data to make informed decisions. So I'm looking at this as that main primary vehicle for that. Okay, so we have to, and of course, as a teacher, we have to understand data to make informed decisions on our instruction. So, and that's thinking back to, okay, I've taught this skill or standard, but the student didn't quite master it. So what action plan am I going to put in place to go back and identify the strengths and weaknesses, and then implement those action steps? So I'm thinking back to, and I've referenced all this from our Iste website here, but thinking back to how can parish, how can DeSoto uh, adopt these standards, or how can they make it a normal for meaningful technology integration? So, as this is cited, taken from ISTE's website, it's part of a statewide or district level expectation, determining what those expectations are, and that goes back to the strategic plan and what stages of that need to be implemented in certain phases. Guiding system-wide planning, including school improvement and technology, I think DeSoto is on a path to doing that, and I think our superintendent has invested in that quite well, and we'll continue to see how that plan flourishes and develops. Looking at coaching and professional development goals. Recently, um, I just went through a Google Trainer professional development workshop where I actually submitted work to become a Google Trainer, certified trainer. So DeSoto Parish has identified um, proficient technology users throughout the different campuses in the district, and those teachers worked on becoming certified trainers. So that's part of that professional development growth, that coaching model. I feel like we still need that instructional technology coordinator or facilitator role in the parish, but I think here we're making that effort as a good start to have actual coaches and mentors on campus. Mapping curriculum for virtual learning design, and I'm thinking back to when I started during the middle of this pandemic and getting ready for the school year. Our district looked at various models for virtual learning, especially as it pertains to face-to-face instruction and remote learning, um, and looking at learning design for synchronous and asynchronous learning. So these standards play a really big part of that, right? Thinking about how are we going to develop learning that meets all of the needs of all of our students, either virtually or in a face-to-face environment. Ensure lesson design and plans include purposeful use of technology. And I've taken this away from my weekly clusters with my content team, thinking about student engagement. How are we using tools to engage students? What methods are we using? Are they working? Are you being reflective on the process? And that's what I think about here. And then a part of learning management system or web system. We are in Google Classroom right now and thinking about learning management and how we design our classroom environments virtually. And so these standards can really help in thinking through that process. And then teacher preparation. So these things are some key takeaways to think about. And I've actually I'm going to go ahead. I know we're submitting this on our forum for us to review, but I'll just give you a quick overview of my prototype. Um, Dr. Chen mentioned like this matrix type format, and this gives a basic overview of like how my portfolio and the design of my projects and learning have gone to um, help DeSoto Parish, and that's my hope is that I can bring these learning artifacts and these ideas back to our leadership, and we could continue to move through phases of our strategic plan. And so I've listed all of the standards and indicators here in this table, and then I made a section for learning artifacts. And I know this first phase, we're going to be giving each other feedback on these things. And I know I've included quite a selection here. I know we only need 1 to 2, but hopefully you guys can. All these links are clickable, and you can click through and look at some things I've designed for our courses. And so hopefully you can give me some good feedback on some focal artifacts, some for the main focus of for my portfolio, and and provide some good suggestions. I know this will change. I know I probably need to cut it down a little bit, but I felt like a lot of the things that we've created throughout our 11 courses, I think each thing has been meaningful and something that we could actually, that I know I can actually take back to uh, my team here and present some good ideas. So, but feel free to click through some of these links when you're in the forum and we're giving feedback. I've talked about some of these alignments with the standards, like here, uh, have the research, and then things for 75-25, thinking about professional development and facilitation, learning design and instructional design, and then with learning, looking at your learning networks and social media um, channels, leadership projects, communicate technology communication plans, and then so it kind of, you can go through here and see kind of where these align in that matrix in that table here. So that is it for my overview of the ISTE standards, and these are the um, primary skills and focal points and objectives, that standards that I'll be using um, to to lay out my portfolio and produce my final product. So um, thank you all so much for your feedback and your collaboration. I really appreciate it. And please let me know if I can be helpful to any of you. I'd be happy to talk with you, or you know, if you need ideas or suggestions on anything or want feedback, please feel free to reach me at any time. I'd be happy to help. I will see everyone soon. Look forward to seeing what all of your prototypes look like. Take care.